Hi everyone, welcome back to Feral Oracle. So this video is going to be all about ancestral codes. Now, when we think about ancestral codes, it is all about it's a different way to talk about DNA inheritance. How we think about or we ask a specific person about type of what's their biological hereditary status, what is in their family DNA. And we see now these days we are seeing the emotional and the mental aspect of other people, right? For example, if we are someone that is looking for uh, a partner, we're going to ask, what are your basic habits, how do you live, your hygiene, your EQ, and things like that. Of course, these things can change with a lot of hard work, but some things, or let's say basic behavioral patterns, are just inherited. The way you talk, the way you write, the way you speak, your attitude, your mental processing, the way you see life, the way you are around people, the way you act, how you are in a closed space, how you are with yourself, the way you talk, are all things that you have absorbed from your ancestors, whether you know it or not. And the most literate example that's going to be in front of you is going to be the behavioral pattern of your parents, basically. So these patterns or ancestral codes talk about DNA inheritance. Basically, you have resemblance, not just physical resemblance like your eyes, nose, ears. You have resemblance in your voice, you have resemblance in your height, you have resemblance with your eye colors, your eyelashes. Everything down to a freaking T is defined by what combinations, experiences, climatic changes, financial standards, educational processes, everything that has been taught or ripped away from you is today a product of you as a human. It is a combination of everything your ancestors have been through more than 100,000 years. Like, these are things that, in fact, it goes down to a T of million years where things have changed because life is a game of adaptability. The ones that actually get somewhere are the ones that have adapted to the situations. It's more like, weather. Like, something, if it happens right now, we have to protect ourselves, we have to get food for it. The survival conditions have changed today, right? Because we have houses, they're not made of huts anymore, we're not prone to wildlife attack over us. We have protection, so survivability is something that is quite less in percentage than what we need to consider now, simply also because there's quite a lot of job employment as well. Um, but what it comes down to is our mental and our spiritual behavioral patterns now. So life has become quite a lot narrowed down in this stage of earth global consciousness, where we're moving towards new earth, where new prototype, in a sense, how we say we are living in the age of Kali Yuga. Basically, things are going through destruction, and this is also mass ego destruction that's going through. And this is something that it's more like global consciousness or Mother Gaia always knew this is going to happen. You never tell Mother Gaia what to do, you never tell Mother Gaia how to work with karma. What goes around comes around. Mother Gaia takes its own time. It's in its due time. If Mother Gaia needs to replenish herself, clear herself, she's going to take her time. And that's what comes in human race. We are a part of Mother Gaia, right? And the evolution and the so-called perceived extinction of species that is not exactly caused by human species is more also a play of Mother Gaia, in which we are feeling the ancestral codes of these species that just came from atom, right? They were just matter, they were particles that evolved and they became into something just like we are beings of it, that we adapted. And now you as a human are learning how to challenge, how to bring in your divine supreme intelligence into being by changing these divine codes, by changing our ancestral codes. So it's not just about things that they've been through, but it's all about the things that they've felt, they've conquered. Maybe they felt defeated by, maybe the way in which they coped up with rejection, challenges, how they celebrated success, how they celebrated companionship, how they celebrated, um, or how they did not celebrate hardship in their life. Everything is so inclusive of divine codes. So basically, what you're experiencing, in fact, is that you were never a blank slate. The moment you took birth, yes, you were a blank slate because you came with pure consciousness and a heart beaming of love. But soon as you started evolving, everything is learned behavior or inherited behavior. So you may remain under the delusion. It's like a box that you exist in, but you can't think outside of the box unless and until it's perceived as a box, but a norm of society. And that's why we challenge our societal thinking when we're going through ego deaths, and it can feel absolutely insane. It can feel like you're going insane. I personally have I began my journey about over a decade, and something about it that I'm still figuring out is exactly when it started, because a lot of it is overlapped and I'm not exactly sure of it. And the more I reach, every time there's a question of sanity, because your ancestral codes are everything that have made your sense of this world. And often when you're just following your own intuition and your own inner blueprint, basically your own moral compass, you're not exactly guided by the box or supervision of religion that still gives you something or somebody to worship outside of you. But when you're following a code or a baseline or a divine compass that's inside of you, you're often going to find yourself questioning if you're going insane, because it's going to terribly break down those mental constraints, and it's always going to feel like an ego death. One of my favorite quotes is that every death is an ego death unless the body dies, because it's like the ego death can feel extremely painful, and it's something that takes a lot of courage and constant meditation. It's a life of sadhana that you follow. It's something that you do regardless of whether you feel like doing it or not, because you reach a point where you start feeling like there's no going back. In my journey, I've reached this point where it's so consuming, and I have absolutely no clue where I would go. It's this middle phase you'd realize, which you almost thought, you think, at some point that it's gonna bring out this beam of light version of me where life is all of a sudden going to just become amazing. But as you grow in this process, you realize that amazing is not actually a destination. This life is devoted in figuring out yourself. You're going to have challenges, sadness, and happiness either ways, but it's all about the purpose and the meaning that you're giving to your life. And this brings me back to the fact that basically you never have a blank slate. How do you get back to a blank slate? It's by breaking the box. If you are someone that can't even see the box, you will never be able to recognize it and change it or step outside of it. And reaching a blank slate requires you to revisit all these patterns, feelings, strengths, and weaknesses, because the more deeper you go, you're going to unlock not only just gifts, but you're going to unlock things that you may have not even thought of or imagined, that this is how deep the shadow goes. Because if there's one person in the lineage that's trying to do, not reverse it but adapt, it's like you are someone that took birth in it, right? Your consent, you took birth in this lineage, you chose this ancestral, this generational line, right? And you were like, hey, I want to bring my next lesson or my life evolution here. So even if you don't have a guru or a mentor or a spiritual guide, if the soul has decided that it's going to ascend in this specific area, in this specific lineage, in this specific body, it's going to ascend no matter what it does. Even if your mind can't comprehend what it is, why does it hurt so much, why is it taking longer than it's taken for others, you may want to simply see how deep are you really going, because there is going to be absolutely no comparison of the work that you're doing with another human being, because you have no idea where their ancestors lacked and superseded than yours. Again, it's like it's an unfair competition. You're not realizing the amount of depth and hard work. In fact, it's a life of sadhana. It's something that you do. There is no trendy way of saying this or glorifying it as discipline. Life of sadhana means that you're devoted to your ascension. This is what your soul chose, and there's absolutely no way in which you're going to back down. Even if you feel tired, you're going to still continue doing it. You're going to do it because that is what your soul gave meaning to this life. And of course, along with it, there is just so much loneliness that is encountered with the ego death, the feeling of being alone. And of course, this can be tackled with a good sense of community around you, but your path is always going to be yours, and nobody else is going to be able to understand what it requires to be you.